الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. First of all, فين ماريا ومصعب؟ حطوني بعد عادل وعدي وambition group. يعني أنا في الأول when they put me in the morning I thought يعني مع زملائي لا خليني أكون مع students وطلعوا ما شاء الله تبارك الله. It's going to be very difficult to undo يعني the mood that they set. But I will try. I'm very pleased from the first talk that I listened because subhanallah I think without wanting we actually are talking about the exact same thing. I won't be as energetic as the ones before me. Believe it or not, it makes me very nervous to talk in public, even though I don't show it all the time. But it's actually all the talks that have been said today have touched on a very important thing, which is the fact that we all have some kind of potential within us. And it's really a decision whether you want to unlock it or keep it hidden. And it's all about trying something different. So, I'm here to tell you my story, and I hate talking about myself, but it's a story that I hope we all gain something out of it. And it's about reaching out beyond your comfort zone, which I think all the kids before me have done. I love this quote. This quote really represents something about life. Two of the most important days in your life are one, the day you were born, and the second one is when you realize why you were born. Because we all have a mission, no matter how small or how big it is, we all have a mission. And dreams, everybody has talked here about dreams, whether they're difficulty في الدراسات العليا, ولا it's doing something out of the box. Everybody had a dream. And فعلا, we are actually dream beings. We're the only ones who dream. People dream. They have ideas. So it depends, are you going to leave it as a dream or are you going to follow it and run after it? Now, children are the ones who dream the most. And this is where my journey began in dreaming. And I'm a big daydreamer. I dream I can do anything and everything. Sometimes it got me into trouble, but I do believe that anybody can do anything. And my journey began when I was very young. This is when I was in kindergarten. It was my first shahada. نجحت من kindergarten لأولى ابتدائي and I thought, wow, خلاص أنا وصلت. And actually what I started dreaming about, and my first dream was, and this is not fiction, this is fact, I believed and I was so sure I could invent a medication. I was already a doctor back then, يعني. I could invent a medication that would keep people young. This was my goal in life. And all because I was very attached to my grandparents. I loved them so much. I didn't want them to grow old. I wanted them to live forever. فأنا قررت ورحت لستي قلت لها look, you know what? أنت لا تشيلي هم. I am going to invent this medication and you'll stay young for the rest of your life. By the way, ما شاء الله تبارك الله, الله يرحمها, ستي had the best memory I've ever seen in anybody. Until a few months before she died, جاتني قالت لي ترى أنا منتظرة بس ما بيجي وقت كتير. صلحي لي الدواء ده علشان أعيش. But it shows you that it really is incredible the amount of dreams one can have. And you decide whether you want to feed them or you want to bury them. Now, this is one of الآيات اللي وأنا صغيرة في الابتدائي it really كانت تأثر فيها مرة كتير من كل القرآن. أنا ماني حافظة القرآن كتير ولا أدعي إني أنا أعرف كتير, بس هذه الآية مرة كانت تأثر فيها لأنه كنت أقول في مخي إذا ربي قال للملائكة إني جاعل في الأرض خليفة يعني this is a huge responsibility. أنا حسيت كأنه he isolated me and he said look you have to do something. You have to do something في الحياة. And later on as you read and as you learn and you go through life you realize that you do need to live, to love, to learn, and most importantly for me is to leave a legacy. Now, I'm not talking about leaving a legacy في يعني إنكم you do something out of the norm. Even within a small circle, you can leave a huge message. And at the end of the day, the way I look at it, and I learned this during my PhD على فكرة, when my supervisor used to tell me, Nadia, wallahi, no results is still a result. يعني معناته no, this doesn't work, so people will not do it again, which is very difficult for one to comprehend. But فعلا, we are all pieces of puzzles. At the end of the day, you might not be a Nelson Mandela. You might not be a Malcolm X. You might not be somebody huge, but you can make a difference even in your small community. So, at the crossroads, I always knew there's something called a comfort zone. So if there's a comfort zone, there's an uncomfortable zone. And I usually was a very, very shy person يعني by nature, so I didn't like doing things that are different. I would sit in the same place whenever I'm in a meeting. I would do the same things. يعني أكون يعني ضامنة إنه I'm not going to do anything weird. But something happened in my life that rocked the boat. So يعني in the last few years, my life has not been as stable as I've always had it. And I realized that there's something I need to do to get myself out of whatever I was in. فقررت, and it's very important, إني قررت إنه خلاص هأدفع و I'm going to go and do something I've dreamed about since I was very young. And I'm going to go and do something which includes volunteering outside. So this was the first step. I did it on my own. I went online. I checked which volunteer organizations were out there. I signed up. I paid. And then after taking the step, and this is why I mentioned this step, very important, the decision came from me without any help from anybody else. It was something conscious I decided to do. After I did that, I know most of you know أنا شغالة مع خواطر من الموسم الثالث. I'm with them every single year and we do إعداد الحلقات. فأجلس مع الأستاذ أحمد مرة كتير. فالمهم وقتها I just mentioned it by the way. I'm not going to be around in this فترة لأنه أنا طالعة for volunteering work. وقتها كنت بروح كينيا. أحمد قال لي wait. أنت طالعة؟ قلت له I'm طالعة. قال لي okay wait. You know what? You'll come with us. أحسن تعالي معانا لأنه إحنا طالعين for volunteering work. Which was حاجة منزلة من السماء لأنه بصراحة when I think about it I was going blind, alone, without anybody with me. I didn't know what kind of environment I was going to find, but I was convinced I was going to do it. Uganda is a very small country in Africa, and it's one of the most peaceful and the safest countries in Africa. And I was in Kampala, which is the capital. I never heard of Uganda ولا عمري سمعتهم ولا شفتهم ولا. It was just a country يعني. And I was very, very blessed to be with a team that was مبدع جدا. But honestly speaking, علشان بس يعني some of you may have seen the episode and it seems nice and it's very, very flashy and it's wow راحت أفريقيا وأنقذت ناس ومش عارفة إيه. No, it's not about that actually. Actually, the way I look at it, when it happened, it was Uganda that came to me more than me going to them. And this is very important. It's a concept that we have to understand. It's very easy for us to glorify ourselves and our actions, but to actually learn from them is something that takes a little bit of humility. I was shocked. I was on my own most of the time. I wasn't with the team, لوحدي. بس سكنوني في مكان كويس علشاني obviously because I'm a girl وحجاب والكلام ده كله. فالمهم بس I was there on my own every single day, going and seeing people, meeting people, talking to people. All of them had a smile. This is على فكرة the typical housing of a Ugandan family. So it's not like what we hear on TV, يعني what we think, يعني we think إنه maybe it's مبالغ الكلام اللي بيقولوا. No, actually people really don't have anything to eat, anything they don't have clothes, they don't have anything, they don't have sanitation, they don't have water. طبعا الموية هذه شيء يعني I used to have to bring my bottled water and I couldn't even أتوضأ في المكان لأنه most of the times ما في موية. So it really is like that. And this taught me something important on the first day, which is everyone lives his own reality. We from here cannot pass judgment on someone who lives anywhere else. We cannot pass judgment on our neighbors, لأنه if you don't live their life, you cannot know what they go through on a daily basis. So one of the most important things I learned was not to judge people, not to say هدولا وإنتوا وإحنا وهم ومش عارفة مين. No, everybody lives his own reality. This is a center where I worked. It's an HIV center. كل patients اللي عندي كانوا HIV positive. وهنا came back again the same thing. People think إنه well غضب الله عليهم فعشان كده جاهم ال HIV. I heard this, which really shows you the lack of humanity sometimes we have. لأنه كثير من النساء اللي كانوا عندي اللي كانوا يجوا مسلمات محجبات ومسلمات بس they contracted the disease not because they wanted to ولا because they have bad habits. بس this is what happened. طبعا اتعلمت منهم أشياء كثيرة. أول حاجة they're very polite people, very friendly, very happy. All of the patients we treated, all of them had HIV. I learned from this lady over here, and this brings me to the talk of, I think Hassan was mentioning early. This lady is over 60 and she is متقاعدة في بريطانيا. Now she started working. قالت أخيراً خلاص خلصت من العمل دحين I can start doing what I love. which is volunteering. طبعا ما شاء الله تبارك الله she's there as we speak by the way. she رجعت يوغندا وبتكلمني بتقول لي على التطوعات اللي صارت في she has a small project. I learned a lot. I was very humbled by her. We didn't do much. Blood pressure, talk to the patients, give them a little bit of hope. They all sit very quietly على عكس المرضى اللي عندنا اللي شوية they're gonna break down the doors. Quietly waiting their turn. When they come, they're very polite. They bring الدفاتر حقتهم وانت تكتب وكيف حالك وش أخبارك. Very simple people. Don't define people because of their color, because of their ethnicity, because of their religion, which is something we always fall into. وأنا أقول دائما إذا الرسول عليه الصلاة والسلام was going to do this to people كان الإسلام اتولد ومات وقتها. But it's because هو كان بالعكس يعني he used to be much better with the others than he was sometimes with his own people. And this is what it's about. So at the end of the day there is حاجة إنه we're all humans, we all are the same. We all have the same dreams, the same capacity, the same, just different luck. طبعا هم كان عندهم a lot of posters about children. على فكرة one of the things I don't know if you notice يعني if you notice this child has a big inflated tummy, that's because all the children, 95% of African children have worms because obviously the water is very dirty. So all the parasites they have worm in there, which is something that can be treated with very simple medication. But طبعا there's a big story behind Uganda and the corruption that they have للأسف يعني الشديد. Now the reason why this picture is very dear to me because I used to study kwashorkor in school. And for the first time, I actually saw a patient and held a patient that is suffering from this illness. Obviously, we talked to the United Nations وقتها علشان نجيب لهم these are people who are actually starving sometimes. But they're very friendly. They bring their children. Children are all the same. They're all gorgeous and they all have hope and they're all little, in my eyes, they're like little stem cells that can be anything and everything they want to be. And you realize that smiling is really a universal language. وحاجة تحزنني sometimes هنا في المجتمع إنه we're not very smiley people. We're always so worried and so into our own thoughts and problems that we forget to smile. I didn't know what to do طبعا. I don't talk their language. I don't know how to communicate that much with them. فكنت أرسم لهم الرسمة دي الهبلة. بس it used to make them very happy. They used to be so happy when they would laugh and they would think it's something حاجة ما حصلت يعني. بس it made them happy. Children. There's so much hope in them. And the last thing you want to do, and this was touched on in talks before me, is when you have a child, talking about children, somebody said, يعني لا تتريق على الطفل يفتكر. My dad, he's a pediatrician. درس في Dublin. I remember in one of his clinical exam, he was failed. Because when he got the baby, كده بيمسك فيه بيكشف عليه وبعدين ضربه كده on the bottom يعني وبطريقة يعني ضربوا the examiner failed him. طبعا my father was shocked يعني I answered all the scientific questions right, what's wrong يعني. فالدكتور قال له أول حاجة أنت مين تتريق على الطفل. Now the child was 1 year old يعني he was يعني لسه ما حتى يمشي. أنت مين تتريق على الطفل. This is a human being. أنت ما تتريق عليه. أنت you're his doctor. Number one. Number two. أنت إيش عرفك هذا ما هيصير رئيس يوم من الأيام ويفتكرك ويجي يوريك شغلك. But this shows you that sometimes we don't think about these things. And it changed my father's way of looking at kids completely. This is the team of doctors that came with me. Well, these two back here, they're doctors that work really selflessly. And this just shows you that the community there ما طالعوا فيها إني أنا مغطاية ولا إني أنا well compared to them I'm definitely white. And they used to call me على فكرة اللي ما أدري if you've seen it on my Facebook there's a page where we set up together which is called Arab Muzungo. The first child I met on my first day in Uganda came to me طالعت فيها قالت لي مuzungo. يا رب إيش يعني مuzungo? It means white person. يعني من كتر ما انصدمت إنه شافت واحدة بيضة this is what she named me. And these children are not afraid that we're different. They come, they're full of hope, they're full of trust. They just need a helping hand. Now, حاجة مرة مهمة اتعلمت من يوغندا. Bricks don't talk, actions do. Now, I say this because maybe you've seen حلقة خواطر, and I mentioned it there, but I'll say it again for those who didn't. I know one of the things that really, really hurt me was when I visited a mosque in Uganda. It was a beautiful mosque, very well built, beautiful, clean, lots of water. والمجتمع اللي حوالين الماسك تعبانين، عريانين، جيعانين، وسخين، ما عندهم مويه. وسألت واحدة من السيدات 5 kids, she had 5 kids, she was just now, she had just lost her husband to AIDS. فسألتها هل في أحد يجي يفتح المسجد؟ فقالت لي يجوا يوم الجمعة يصلوا ويمشوا. And I remember I used to hear a lot, كانوا صحباتي يفتخروا. And it's not because it's wrong, but it just shows you the paradigm shift when it happens. كانوا يفتخروا احنا بنينا مسجد لأبويا باسمه في أفريقيا. فsuddenly مسجد كوقف يعني تمثل قدامي. I saw it. It's not enough just to build a building. It's more important to actually have actions. This يعني المosque was supposed to be a pillar and it was to be a center of hope for these people. It doesn't make sense to me إني أنا أجي أصلي الجمعة وعندي ناس ميتين جوع حواليا. This was something that really shocked me, and it really humbled me. Because at the end of the day, one of the things one of the doctors told me is, والله we're shocked. It's the first time we see Arabs coming to us. احنا متعودين الأمريكان والأوروبيين يجونا، بس ما احنا متعودين إنه actual Arabs come to help and they touch us and they talk with us. We're used إنه you guys come for business, يعني with the government officials. I'm not saying there aren't people who are doing work there. لا تفهموني غلط. But I'm saying we're not enough. Now, this brings me to something very important. علشان بس نكون فهمنا الموضوع بطريقة سليمة يعني. Am I telling you all to go to Africa؟ طبعاً لا. أنتوا شفتوا الكلام قبلي دكتور ياسر he was talking about الشغل في سوريا. But let's say we don't need to go beyond our borders. انتوا كلكم عارفين لما صارت السيول قبل 2-3 في جدة الحال كيف كان. And I also saw how much action, because you are at the age where you make things happen. But it's not just about, maybe I leaped really beyond my comfort zone لما رحت أفريقيا, but I needed to do that for myself at that moment in my life. But it's all about you doing something حتى لو في الحي, even if it's just in your own small community. احنا طبعا في طب الأسنان it's a nice profession, and maybe I have I don't really consider myself a dentist so much. I prefer to be considered as a teacher. I love my research much more than the dental practice. But we have a nice mihna, we have something really nice in our hands. But let's not forget that we're part of a community, that we can do a lot more than just drill and fill and be completely engulfed in our work. This was one of the slogans في United Nations. I was here. It was called an I was here. And it's really nice because it asks you, what will you do? Will you leave a mark? And the mark does not have to be, as I said, something huge. It can be just something small and a change in someone's life. Again, أرجع للقرآن. سورة الفاتحة, we say it every single صلاة 200,000 مرة. ما لاحظت إنه ربنا قال رب العالمين, ما قال رب المسلمين ولا رب العرب, قال رب العالمين, the whole humankind. So it's our responsibility to send out a hand to everybody, not just ourselves. Again, just to bring it all to a close, remember, really, I do see everybody as a small stem cell, potential to be anything they want to be. It's about stop from your monotony of life. Always take time to تتأمل, تفكر, what else can you do, where else can you reach, and reach out and do something extra. And remember, اللي يقول I don't have enough money to do it, I don't have enough encouragement to do it, I don't have, my life does not allow me to do it. The walls that stop you from doing anything are only the walls you build for yourself. لأن ربنا ما خلق أحد ناقص. كلنا we are complete beings one way or another. Thank you.